We will have a senior commander. As General Milano alluded to, there will be a senior commander transfer of authority later in May or June, and that will be formally passed from him to Lieutenant General Franklin. Next chart, please. This is an operational graphics and a big cartoon, basically, but in a nutshell, this is how the move is going. And as Jeff mentioned, it is on track. Everything's going as it should be. We have had problems, of course. We've had some bumps in the roads, but things are moving on schedule. HRC up here is coming from 3 locations to Fort Knox, Accessions and Cadet Command coming from Fort Monroe to Knox. And then, of course, the Armor School moved to Fort Benning and several bands later this year and in 2011. Next slide. Well, in addition to just coming here, we're also standing up, as I mentioned, the HRCOE, the Human Resource Center of Excellence. And well, we're forming the team. We've been having semi-annual boards of directors for all the general officers in the area to get their input every 6 months. We have quarterly BRAC task force meetings with our deputy commanding general and staff from all the commands. We work with our Fort Knox partners and the community leaders. One Knox and Brad Richardson. I mean, it's like they're just part of us and we're part of them. That's how close the cooperation and the relationship is. We participate in the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. I see Mark Needham here. We talk with them a lot, and they talk with us, as they do with the garrison and the Armor Center. We're changing the culture to a bit. The Armor Center is going to Fort Benning. There will always remain the Armor legacy on Fort Knox. And there'll be a new culture that's coming in, the Accessions Command Human Resource Center of Excellence. We have a branding work group, a museum work group, a memorialization work group. We're preparing the landscape. We've been meeting with our Armor Center partners on the transition. We have a civilian personnel work group who's working through issues with the Department of Army civilian personnel. Even an IT forum, because the Human Resource Center of Excellence has different IT, computer, communications, cabling needs than the Armor Center does. It is a sea change in some areas. Next chart. You've heard about branding. We are looking at a new brand, and this is what we would propose as the new brand. In fact, I think it was in the Turret last week. The focus here is on Fort Knox. Another focus is on people. Strength starts here. And we think that applies to everyone on Knox and everyone coming to Fort Knox. And the focus is on the mission of bringing the Human Resource Center of Excellence. You will see more of this in the future, but that's the brand that's been proposed. The general officers and the commanders have discussed this and are on board that this looks like a good brand for the future of Fort Knox. Next chart. The Patton Museum is staying here. As many of you know, and you've seen, the National Armor and Cavalry Museum is moving to Fort Benning. Some of the pieces have already started moving down there. But the museum and the Patton collection will remain here at Fort Knox. It will have a new storyline as our new partners and new commands come in. And those commands mean the Accessions, Recruiting, Cadet Command, where you can see the list there. It'll have new displays and new items of equipment. And we will have military equipment in front of the museum along 31W. It'll have a different look. And as General Milano said, though, the Armor legacy is going to remain strong. We have monuments at all the gates, at Stifton Circle and around the post that aren't going away. This is the former home of the Armor School. It's always going to be, this is where the Armor legacy grew from 1930-something until 2011. Okay. Could you back up one, please? Just down here. The transfer of the museum will occur sometime in September as the Armor Center moves more of the equipment down to Fort Benning, and then they'll hand that off to us in September. Next chart, please. Memorialization and enclaves. You may have heard about this. While we're retaining the Armor legacy, we do have new commands coming in that have their own individual unique capability and type of function and mission. And we are trying to create areas or enclaves on Fort Knox where the people that live and work there will have that reflected in the area that they live and work in. Ergo, we may memorialize a building after someone that's in their future, their history or their past. We may take a road and say, perhaps we should look at renaming this road. Again, we are retaining the Armor legacy, and the Fort Knox history at Fort Knox. We are creating what we call enclaves. Those are certainly not done. We're fairly early on in this process. Next chart. One of the first enclaves is the Human Resource Center of Excellence Enclave. You may have heard about this. We actually have received permission from DA and through General Milano and down to the Garrison Commander to memorialize this complex after Lieutenant General Maude, who was killed in the Pentagon on 9/11. He was in the G1. He is a personnelist, and that makes sense then to memorialize this complex after General Maude. The ceremony, a little bit in flux at the moment, due to some changes at very high levels, but we're looking for a late May, early June date for the ceremony for the memorialization. This does not change the fact that the facility will be up and ready on 3 June and people start moving in. Just the ceremony date is slipping probably late May or probably a little bit later in June. More to follow. Next chart. General Milano mentioned this. There is a senior commander transition that's being planned. He and General Franklin have been briefed on it. We're well down the pike to making this happen, to be followed by a transfer of authority ceremony late May or early June. Next chart. This is my last chart, and I'll pass to Colonel Greg Gardner from HRC. This chart is up there to say that there have been, there are now, and there will be vacant positions in the commands of the Human Resource Center of Excellence and HRC. This is not a static chart, however, and Greg's going to talk to it. This changes daily, and the numbers can be misleading, but it's just a snapshot in time. And again, I believe we're taking questions at the end. So, Colonel Greg Gardner from HRC.